Why can't I see nothing? There it is.
4, 3,
There.
2, 1.
Yeah.
I push the button. We do the things. We are the Podguyz Podcast, bringing it to you as we do every Monday, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. I'm Tony Cass.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, we have the ever-loving Picasso, the creator of all things curvy, the belvedere of the bulbous figure, and the creator of cartoons, Les Sparky.
And Sparky says hi. He's actually coming out with a children's book next week. It's called Sparky Draws. So look for that in your local Barnes and Noble or other bookstores for the next week that they'll be open, because they will surely be closed. I told Sparky do it as an ebook, but he's not that technology savvy anyways, Tony. We do have a Foursquare right now.
We do. We're joined today by the beautiful Dorothy O'Dell. No, we're going with O'Dell?
We're just going with O'Dell. Odell's fine.
Odell?
Graham O'Dell?
Okay. We're going with O'Dell. Dorothy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. This has been enlightening. The pre-party.
It's a fun.
The pre-party.
It's going to be a good one.
I'm like, please, none of this go live. But anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. It has been a pleasure already.
Nice.
Well,
nice.
We are very excited to have you. Now, you are the creator, the CEO, the aristocrat behind the Unstoppable Network.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can describe it a little bit for us.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I'll give you the cliff notes. 4 years ago, I decided to write a book. It's called The Overcomer, Facing Challenges with Faith and Courage. Just my life story of overcoming bullying, low self-esteem, trauma, including the suicide of my uncle. And I thought, that's great. Everybody can write a book, which you can get on Amazon, by the way. So that's out there. But, no one knows Windsor, Ontario. No one knows me. And so how in the world do I get my name out there, right? So I decided to start my first show, which was called The Unstoppable Network, where I interviewed, I think, over 182 people on that. And my life completely changed when I met Greg Bicknell. He was a 28-year Air Force veteran, and he had attempted suicide 3 times. And he came on my show and told me that 22 veterans a day were dying by suicide. That, of course, is a U.S. stat. This gentleman's from Florida. And I thought, there is no way in hell that I was going to allow that on my watch. I come from a military background. I've had my dad's baby brother serve. I had a great grandfather that served in the Navy. And so, I did have that background, but I also had, unfortunately, the suicide part where my dad's middle brother completed suicide on Christmas Day. And I knew what it was like to be on this end and just really, the aftermath of when that happens. There's no, there's no closure when that happens. And I thought, if I could help one veteran to save their life, or even one civilian for that matter, then it would be all worth it. So 4 years later, here we are. I had started 2 other shows when COVID hit. All the businesses in my town were closing left, right, and center. So I thought, what better way than to help our business owners? And I started the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. It was 30 minutes of just every business owner from around the world being able to come on and share their stories and how they helped others. And of course, I thought, well, I have to give my veterans and first responders their own show. And that's when I started A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph with our co-host, Dr. Jay Royster. But then, as you all know, as a one-person team, doing this for 4 years, I kind of hit a wall. And I thought, I wanted to be the next Oprah, and I still want to give everyday people a chance and a platform to be able to share their story. And I thought I created, actually just recently, I amalgamated it all, and I created the Unstoppable Network, where veterans, survivors, and trailblazers come together to turn their pain into power and to share their mess and turn their mess into a message. And so that's now basically what we're doing. Dr. Royster will be co-host at least once a month, if not more. And she's even going to be on with civilians as well, not just our military. So it's I read the books 10x is better than 2x, and I asked ChatGPT, because that's the newest craze. I'm like, how can I take that book and 10x my life? And so I said, hey, just do this, put it all under one umbrella. And so that's what I did.
That sometimes work. I love the ambition. You gotta get your name out there to get the big picture message out there for people. But sometimes what can get lost is, are you vetting the vets? I mean, like when they're doing their own thing, are you making sure that they know how to get themselves acquainted with the whole microphone to live or pre-recording sessions at all? Or are you just saying, all right, guys, just all under the umbrella and go?
Anybody who's willing to share their story, especially a veteran does not want to share their story. They don't want kudos. They just know that they don't want the recognition. But
no, they don't want the normally they're yelled at in boot camp, like, what do you want for that? A piece of pie, maggot? Right. something like that you've seen in the movies sort of thing. I mean, a lot of these veterans do have, like, it starts off with just one little thing and it doesn't go mentioned at all, but I'll mention it. And you can mention it to your veterans, and they might not want to talk about it because they've been ignored enough about just a small little symptom. Ringing in the ear. You get tinnitus, you get the ringing in the ear, and you're like, oh, what's that? And you expect it to go away, can cause pain. And most importantly, sleepless nights. You think that things are wrong. It's not the ear doctor's problem, but the brain doctor doesn't know how to solve it either. It's like right on the borderline of every doctor saying, not my problem. And their big solution is just live with it. Now, normally this just doesn't affect one ear; it can affect both ears. Tinnitus, it's just one of the driving factors where they're like, you have so many times. What was it? 3M got sued over the whole earplug thing, and they're like, well, here's money. Doesn't that solve it? And it really doesn't solve their underlying problem, because now you have sleepless nights to begin with, and
Dorothy, the look on your face, you're like, oh, did that happen? It did. 3M got sued because they gave earplugs to soldiers, and when they shipped them overseas, they didn't cover the amount of decibels that they said that they would cover, and people went deaf, if not hearing problems or hearing loss in general. And 3M had said, because you're in the military, kind of block off.
Wow.
And
you couldn't personally sue because you were in the military, but it was like a my bad scenario, like whoopsie daisy. I think they did give out some very small compensation packages, but nothing to write home about.
Correct. So there was many follow-throughs through that.
If that's the case, then maybe we should have some of our veterans talk about that on a show or something.
That'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. But believe it or not, there's a lot.
3M.
There's a lot, and not even necessarily even through 3M. The manufacturer of their glasses, the manufacturer of their earphones, the manufacturer of their helmets, any type of protective devices, stuff like that. There's been a numerous amount of, and not even to say PPE, but all of their protective personal equipment that they're supposed to have, they don't have, and it's a huge thing, especially in the military.
Yeah, but one of the biggest lawsuits from military lawsuits is Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. Now, this one's really interesting. It was a $206 billion lawsuit settled in the 1990s. More than 40 states sued big tobacco companies for the health care costs linked to smoking. They claimed these companies lied about the dangers and marketed to kids, resulting in $206 billion deal. A lot of people that served were told that, hey, here, have the smokes. Nothing bad's going to happen to you. Absolutely clear as day. and put them in damage in range right there. It's tricky when it comes to the hearing loss. Though we'll get back to that. Because it's a permanent. I got a little bit of glitch time going on here. Thank you, Microsoft, for not only just making shoddy products for the last 30 years, but proving Bill Gates is behind it the whole time. Microsoft, go fuck yourself. Okay, with that little plug right there. Now, getting back to the hearing loss idea. Now, hearing is something of of your senses that you're always with all the time. So it can become very frustrating, especially when just daily activity. You're trying to watch the TV, you hear a slight ring in the ear. Honestly, you can ask any veteran that's over the age of 50, even the newer ones that have suffered through a trauma, say something exploded in front of them. Now they're still alive, but now they just have that tinnitus going on with that ringing. And it's some of the main roots of it's the first dialogue brought up when they are calling the suicide hotline of like, I got this damn ringing in my ear. It's been documented several times, but once again, nothing they can do. So they try not to focus on that as being one of the symptoms of, starting off to be pissed off about their situation, because anger, sadness, these are all negativity, anything negative that comes towards the light of day on their scenario, let alone they lost friends if they were in combat, or plain old PTSD, which
I was going to say PTSD is a major factor of that.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody who has hearing problems myself, I mean, I have double hearing aids and I have tinnitus once in a while.
Oh my God, isn't that terrible? Yeah,
I get that, and I did not realize that that's what this is the first I'm hearing about that. I mean, every veteran that I've interviewed has never mentioned that, but that's something that I'll look into, because I know I deal with the mental health side of things. Right, and
that's a huge thing too.
Yeah,
and not to say that's a huge it's a huge moneymaker for not only the government itself, but for soldiers that just don't want to come forward because they know that they're going to get Section 8'd. Kind of don't come forward.
Yeah, there's very little incentive. It's a non-friendly environment, because mental health has if you're pro mental health, then you're sometimes it comes down to being pro big pharma, because that's their solution to a majority of these situations where they say, hey, we came out with this that'll help for that. And even the way that they're testing these psychodronic medications out are on mice, behavioral wise and all that nice stuff. And it's because that 97% or something very close to 100, 97% of a mouse's brain activity is close to our brain activity. And that's a 3% gap right there. But here's a fun fact. There is less than 0.5% difference between a cucumber and water. So, and they're not the same fucking thing at all. Like, not even close. So when it comes down to treating people like mice, or in these blind studies, these placebo studies, where even if it's policed by the people making it, they're not trying to police themselves where they're not going to make a profit. So it turns into it kind of turns into what it started as, just a money making scheme where they're, you might dull down one of the emotions so that way you don't see it. That does not mean that emotion has been has had any closure point, has had any actual release. It's just been muted. I can mute the TV and say it's not on, and a blind person would agree with me, but it's still technically on, if that makes any sense, metaphorically speaking, Dorothy.
Yeah, for sure.
Now there's also been another lawsuit out in, I believe it was 2025 or 2026. Or last year or this year coming, 2024, 2025. I'm sorry, 2024, 2025. It was about cancer for in military professionals as well, especially for firefighters, because they used some sort of firefighting foam that caused cancer for most of these firefighters as well. There was a huge settlement that went out for those particular firefighters also. But
what about Agent Orange poisoning? It's the same thing. Like,
oh yeah,
there's been several deaths that I know.
Once you sign up for the military, they have you sign a piece of paper that says you cannot sue the military.
Yeah,
until you have so much clearance in between when you're discharged from the military service.
There was a lot of violate. I know a friend of mine. His dad had Agent Orange, and there's been just as long as like you can't sue to a point because there's just plain old negligence that can't be ignored by the military. If you're the military, you don't want as recruiters to have such a bad reputation where they are now like, hey, by the way, you can't sue. It's like, well, wait a second. Didn't you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? They're like, oh yeah, but not anymore. We promise. It turns into, that dude that always ends up with a new girlfriend, and the girlfriend, the old one, always has a black eye sort of thing. But more, Dorothy, more about the podcast. What is your most recent win? What is your most recent emotional win that you can count, that you can check off, and you can say, okay, we did something good there.
Kevin, good question.
That is a good question. Well, that is, with over 400 interviews under my belt, I would have to say gaining the respect of my military and veterans has been the highlight of my career. I mean, they do not, how shall I say this? They don't trust easily, and civilians are not the number one, right? And so when a veteran says to you, I've got your 6, to me, that was the best feeling in the world. Like, and I've had several good days, and I've interviewed, supermodels. I've interviewed a lot of different people, but I have to say, definitely my military and veterans are my number one.
All right, so we need names and phone numbers of all of the supermodels that you have ever interviewed as well.
Social security numbers would be great too. Yes. I mean,
yes.
Mother's maiden name, just any account activity as well. This is the internet; you can trust it.
And we were talking sports earlier. I mean, I interviewed Joe Spurley, who was the guy that with baseball. He started. He was in charge of getting every Major League Baseball up and running, and then training the baseball players as well. Then he got into a major car accident and had to put things on hold for a while. But he's having a movie out shortly, or they're making it, called Curveballs. So the accident threw a curveball into his career, and so here he is. So
yeah, isn't the new movie called Overcoming Curveballs, or was that his book written?
No, that was I don't think he's got the book out yet, but there is a movie coming out called Curveballs, which it's not started yet, but it will be out.
Because it does pop up here on Google. It says,
does it?
Yeah, right off the rip. I put in Joe Spurley baseball, and you are the first one that pops up. It says, in today's episode, Dorothy O'Dell, not Graham, but O'Dell, sits down with Joe Spurley, a true trailblazer in minor league baseball. Yours is the first to pop up, so you're doing something right, Dorothy. How much did you pay the Google to do that?
Hey,
did
listen.
You speak to the Google?
I didn't speak to Google, but this is the thing. This guy, I don't know. He funny enough, I don't know how he found my website, Unstoppable Overcomers website, and he goes, I just seeing Unstoppable Overcomers. He goes, there's got to be something towards that. So this guy sent me a message and say, hey, I want to be on your show, and on and on and on. This guy calls me weekly, leaves me a voicemail ever since we did the show, about a month ago or something like that. And so he's trying to get me tickets to the Detroit Tigers game. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
Dorothy, you strike me as a person that really picks up and tries to fight battles that the majority of everybody think that have already been won, but they haven't. I see a ribbon in the background there. It says lung cancer awareness. Yes. Am I right? Now, lung cancer, by the way, just like a lot of cancers, very deadly. Okay. Yeah. And not just for smokers. This is why it gets ignored a lot of the time, if not all the time, where they say lung cancer. Well, you should have just not smoked. What's wrong with you? You know, you can get lung cancer just by living and never smoking. We in Pennsylvania, we have microscopic coal dust still floating around in the air. There's no way to get rid of it at all. And just when you think you're going to,
black lung.
We could. What we have down south from us, well, in middle Pennsylvania, we have a little town called Centralia where people decided to throw their garbage into the cracks and crevices. And when the garbage got too high, they said, let's just burn the garbage and stomp it down a little bit. In between of that garbage and the crevices were miles and miles full of coal that just burned forever. The whole town is technically still on fire, Dorothy. EPA, the DEP got together and they said, you know what, let's just try to pay these people some money for their houses, get them out of here. And you know how people are. They said, yeah, how dare you? This check isn't even close to enough. This is $12,000 in the 1970s. $12,000 is kind of like $120,000 nowadays. So if somebody came to your burning fucking house and gave you $120,000 to get the fuck out and go to a different town, normally you would think, hey, let's do this. But instead they made a documentary called This Bullshit $12,000, basically. And they're like, I'd rather sit in my burning house and burning town than cash this check. And the government was like, okay, so next year we're going to offer you a check for less money because the people that take this, they're going to get the more money. And no one believes the government at all, ever, especially in the 70s.
I'd like to think, Kevin, at the round table discussion in Centralia, they're all sitting around the ye old table, and it's got to be a round table. It's got to be a round table.
I was thinking, King Arthur times, like, the town is on fire.
Well, we should stop it with more garbage.
More garbage.
More garbage. More garbage.
Can we take wet garbage and put it on top?
Of course we can.
What about a damp rag?
A damp rag. Let's do it.
You guys are too much.
Grease, oil. Let's throw it all down there.
Oil is wet. Why isn't it working?
Anyways, do you guys know Chris Draft? He's a snapper for, I think he was the Cardinals. Anyways, I interviewed him when I was in Arizona 2 years ago. My husband and I decided to take the show on the road. Well, not really. My business partner and I decided to take the show on the road, and told my husband, "Let's go. You're coming with us."
So you pretty much said, "Hey, we should take the show on the road," and he said, "All right, I'll follow."
Yeah. Anyhow, well, there was some good stuff in there. We ended up going the PGA Tour, so there was
cool.
That. So, anyways, so Chris Straffer, we went to Roman Gabriel III. He was a quarterback for the Oakland Raiders once upon a time.
Way back. You got the early 80s right there.
Yeah. So anyway, so Roman was on my show. He came in and shared what he was doing with the Sold Out Youth Foundation, saying no to fentanyl. So anyways, we decided that we were taking the show on the road. We were going to go, what do you call it? Volunteer at his gala. And so Chris Straffer, Chris Draft was there. I interviewed Chris Draft. He was a snapper for the Cardinals, I believe. Anyways, his wife died of lung cancer. And so when I told him that my dad died of cancer, and it was lung cancer that he started out with, and then ultimately I believe it was the liver that got him. But anyways, so Chris has started this organization. His first wife ended up getting lung cancer, and so they started the White Ribbon Project. That's what it is. And so anyways, this, if you Google it, you'll find everything about this project. And so the organization makes these white ribbons. They make them out of love. He stressed that 100%. And so he actually signed the back, had his girlfriend go out to the car, get me one of those ribbons. And I sat there and I had interviewed him just, about his career and, losing his wife and things like that. So that's where that white ribbon came from after I told him my dad passed away of cancer. So to answer your question.
We only talk to weirdos on this show, I think.
Yeah, no, Dorothy is doing a lot of wonderful things right now. Now that we can't say that about all of our guests, some of our guests are doing just plain old terrible things constantly, and we only find out
to
like
themselves and others, Kevin.
You go to you go to their GoFundMe and it's like, are you funding Hezbollah on this GoFundMe? Is this,
Wait a minute. So you're telling me I need to set up a GoFundMe account?
Yes.
Why not? A Kickstarter program works like wonders. Even if you're just throwing it out there for people to buy an episode, buy a book, or or anything like that. Kickstarters do work. Am I right, Tony?
They do. They do, actually.
Have you looked into Kickstarter programs?
Yeah, I would look into GoFundMe before I go into Kickstarter.
I'd kickstart a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or how about just go to my website and just go, purchase a package to sponsor a show. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
Purchase a package to sponsor a show. Yeah.
That's right. You just go to unstoppableovercomers.com and go pick one that suits your needs. And, or you can come to our annual golf tournament. I mean, each year it gets bigger and better. This year there's a $10,000 prize for a hole-in-one if you're an amateur. That only counts if you're an amateur. So come on down. It is an international event. I do have people from Illinois and Indiana coming down. And
where is this located at, by the way?
So the tournament itself is in Tilbury, Ontario, at the Tilbury Golf Club. It's only 400 Canadian, guys. 400 Canadian gets you a foursome. That gets you 18 holes of golf. That gives you your cart. That gives you your meal. That gives you one door prize ticket. Right? Like, seriously.
That's a really great deal. It's a really great deal.
And a chance to win $10,000.
And a chance to get to meet Dorothy, by the way.
And a chance to get to meet me. You can even have your picture taken with me. How's that?
No hands. No hands.
Will you have any swag for sale there? Will you have any swag like t-shirts, hats promoting the podcast for you there? Will you have that there for the people or no?
Well, that's something. If I can hurry up and get it together, I could possibly
for them. You're not gonna be giving this shit out. Obviously, have them pay for it. Give them a card. Go to a website full of merchandise. All of the merchandise, I'm sure, goes towards your podcast, which is, by the way, creating a support foundation and awareness for other veterans that have depression and suicide. By the way, Dorothy, if you do get 4 or 5 different women that do or used to work at Denny's, you might have Tiger Woods show up for that kind of stuff.
That's true too.
It's just it's a lure. It's Tiger Woods only bait is
now don't tell us that you like Tiger Woods too, because we have a story for you.
I am neutral with Tiger Woods.
Talk about a guy
my mother loved Tiger. My dad did not, and so my dad liked Phil Mickelson.
Phil Mickelson, yeah, the left-handed dandy right there. Yeah,
and I like Sergio. He had to regrip how many fucking times before he did that damn thing.
I like Davis Love the third only because he's got this snarky arrogance to him that he doesn't look like he would sign anybody's autograph, where you get your kid up there like, hey Sergio, or hey Davis Love, could you sign my kid's autograph? And he's like, don't talk to me. And then you could say, see, don't bother people, I told you, and then and then off you go. The Phil Mickelson crowd, I don't know how Phil Mickelson got so much credit for coming in second place all the time, but I guess Ford really thought that was a great idea. Ford's like, we do that all the time. And they're like, well, sometimes we come in second. Top 10. Yeah, we come in second on recalls, but that's regardless to the fact it's kind of strange how it's That's a real.
If you're
That's
a Ford lover, then just hit.
Oh
hit
no,
the
no! I
button.
literally just bashed them for coming in second for most recalls. Recalls on their vehicles. I have owned a Ford Taurus before. I'm more of a Honda guy right now. I love Hondas. I can't break this car. I love it to death. I had a Chevy Lumina before. Love that Chevy Lumina. The one car company that I have a bone to pick with every time is Dodge. Dodge, stop making cars. You're not doing it right. Trucks as well. Stop making trucks.
Well, you realize that the Dodge, I think it's the minivan, is made here, right in Windsor, right where I live. So it's just around the corner from me.
Oh, well, I don't know what they're doing with the steering wheel size, but when it's the size of a goddamn go-kart, it doesn't feel right. Have you ever driven? Dude, they got that Hemi size. I'm right too. They got that Hemi size engine, the undersized bed, and then a steering wheel the size of my cell phone. I'm like, what am I doing here? Am I fucking playing Mario Kart with this goddamn thing? It's so weird. I had a Dodge Neon, broke my heart. By the way, the Dodge Neon, if you're going up a hill and there's so much amount of humidity, there's something called vapor lock that happens to the engine. This was a non-recallable act. Vapor lock would happen where the whole engine shuts off. The whole goddamn thing shuts off. I'm like, I took it down to my mechanic. I said, dude, everything's fine. And he says, wait, were you going uphill? He explained the whole thing to me play by play. And I'm like, wow, what a piece of shit. Who would put a product out like this? People could die. He's like, that's Dodge. They don't really care. It normally goes when you're talking about crap.
They don't really
Dodge.
care.
They really don't. Top tier companies like Toyota and Honda, they kind of test their products out. They're like, Toyota's
Dodge
like,
always hangs out in the top 5 truck category.
I mean, maybe they're fifth. I mean, I don't know, man.
What do you
I
think
don't
of that
know.
damn Tulsa truck, whatever it's called, the Cyber truck? What
The
are your thoughts?
Cyber truck.
Oh,
I have never I've never driven one. I know someone who owns one, and they just take it out for weekends, sort of thing. I think that people get them because it's new, it's a status symbol, and great on gas. Right here in Pennsylvania, we now have something new to screw over people that have electric cars. It's called the usury fee. Have you heard of this, Dorothy? The usury fee is, how you buy an electric car, and you're like, all the money I'm going to save on not buying gasoline. Sure, I still need to charge it and I'll be spending money on electricity, but in the long run, as a consumer, I'm doing the right thing. Well, now usury fee, if you use the road, they're going to charge you a tax on your odometer from one to the next if you are an electric car owner here in Pennsylvania. It's a big scumbag bill is what it turns into.
Oh, huge.
Like, what are you doing? I just looked it up and I'm like, why would anyone want this? Gasoline owners are like, yeah, make them pay like the rest of us. Dude, what are you talking about? You don't like paying the gas. You don't like paying all that shit. But just because somebody else invested a little bit more money into a car and wanted to save it, save themselves some money, it's motorists' animosity towards each other. And politicians, lawmakers in the area took full advantage of the emotions running through it. And they're like, hey, guys, we're going to get those fuckers you don't like. And they're not going to vote for us anyway. So who cares?
Well,
Josh,
not to mention the fact that a new battery is $20,000 for those.
that is
things?
actually not true. That is a $20,000 for GM. GM has been the example used because it's the worst example to use intentionally. The people that are out there doing this are oil companies. Okay, so that is the most expensive battery, including labor, $22,000. That way they can bring out the old excuse of saying, yeah, you'd have to basically buy a new car. How's that helping the environment? And electric car owners, I'm not one, but they're not caring about the environment. They're caring about not paying for the high price of gasoline and evening out that whole situation over there. Okay, so there is something called the InnoBat over it is a warranted company in Europe. Then there is a charge point device, and then there is Plug Power batteries. Plug Power carries a lifetime warranty on it. If your Plug Power battery goes out, they give you a brand new one, no charge. That's how much they have invested into the idea. of electric cars and the battery and all that nice stuff. Tesla has a warranty on their battery for 10 years, and then you can get it replaced with I think the cost of
10
it
years
is
and
about
1 day later, that's when the fucker will go.
you know it. Exactly.
Now, here's how much of a scam that not necessarily the state of Pennsylvania is, but the state of Pennsylvania ranks number 3 in the country as far as the highest gas tax that you can pay per state in the United States of America. It's at 58.7 cents per gallon. So a quarter of whatever you're paying right now, let's say at a $3 a gallon, 58.7 cents of that gallon goes to the state of Pennsylvania.
Now the state of Pennsylvania is they kind of count that as a tourist fee too, because throughout Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, we are the keystone of travel throughout those whole ideas. You get the voters on your side when they say, "Hey, voters that live here in Pennsylvania, who do you hate the most?" And they're like, anyone that's not from here, that's for sure. And they're like, "Great, we'll fix them." It's like, okay, good. What are you gonna do? And the "you'll see" turns into a higher tax on gasoline by saying, "You see, we're taking their money by them even driving through our state." And everybody's like, "Well, yeah, that's good and everything, but can we not pay it?" Nah, you got to get fucked too. Sort of thing. Sparky's got something there on the big board. Dorothy, Sparky is our live artist. Sometimes he draws what he sees. Sometimes he draws where he's been, or he just draws what we've been talking about. Sparky, flip around that beautiful big board for us, won't you? Drops oil, drops grease everywhere. Oh,
that is Dodge, D-O-D-G-E.
Dodge drops oil, drops grease everywhere. Oh no, the cough of death again. Dodge actually said to themselves one day, Diamond Chrysler, they said, "Hey, we're pretty much known for making terrible cars. Fiat, aren't you known for making terrible cars?" And they said, "Absolutely. Why? What do you want to do?" You remember the old Fiat? They nicknamed it the "Fix It Again, Tony." The Fiat. Fix it again, Tony.
Way back. And his son. Both my uncle and his son have a Fiat.
Oh, geez.
So the Fiat in general was twisted around as far as its manufacturing and the way that they made their cars in order to make them a high-priced crap car. Believe it or not.
Yeah. So they all got together. They said, "Hey, let's keep this going. Let's just keep it going. Let's all get together, and try to consolidate our losses and, not claim bankruptcy officially. We got some of that 2011 money going on from the bailout, which every taxpayer here in America, when I'm sure you're aware of what happened here in America around 2010. In that time, Dorothy, with the car company saying, "We don't have any money." And it's like, wow, you guys suck at this, don't you? Guys are making cars.
Right across the river in good old Detroit, the homeless capital of the country right now.
We just know better.
I always say that that the car manufacturing companies are linked in a way to people that have had their tuition rates raised exponentially throughout the years. And I can give you an example. You go to college. Normally you would go to college after you graduate college. You have 1 or 2 major purchases once you get that job, right? You got the house or a brand new car or a used car or whatever job you might have, right? Banks recognized that you didn't have any prior debt because, you worked your way through college and you were actually able to. Then once the bank was open, and when I say that, I mean to everybody, where they said, let's make sure everybody has the chance to get these high interest loans. I mean, the opportunity to go to college at a low or even a higher tuition. Let's just pump those numbers up, sort of thing. Let's have the American consumer become educated in how much they need college to continue, and let's monopolize the middle class this way, to the point where the car manufacturing companies couldn't even make it past 12 years of the introduction of everybody gets to go to college and have a lot of debt, because at that time, now you're like, well, why would I buy a car? It's $5 a gallon for gas. That's crazy. I mean, I'd be better off just taking the bus, or not qualifying for the loan, or realizing that they now have to live in their car because an apartment and a car are too much to include with their now gouged wages from a tuition rate and all that nice stuff. Now, Dorothy, you might know more even about how the GI Bill has been picked apart throughout the years. Are you familiar with that or no?
No.
So the
To
GI,
tell you, I get out of the news and I don't really stay in it because it's depressing, and I just
it's
it
so
is,
sad.
yeah.
So
know, that's just not something that I'm interested in.
The GI Bill, they used to be good for all colleges. You take it, you're good to go. Then they're like, man, everybody's taking that opportunity. So then they cut that in half of how many colleges you can actually go to, and played mess around time with the benefits that was once given to the military veterans. And,
wait a minute, G Bill. That's that isn't.
Yeah.
Is that just strictly for military?
Correct. Yes.
That,
yeah.
okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought. Because I have one veteran right now that's using his GI Bill.
Nice. Which college is he attending?
I don't know, somewhere in Florida.
Florida
Yeah,
and college. That damn alligators and meth. That's all Florida. Disney, alligators, meth.
Oh boy.
As soon as you said that, something clicked in my brain. Wait, I've heard that term somewhere.
So Dorothy, how long do your podcasts normally last? How long do you normally go on for?
Generally about 45 minutes to an hour.
45 to an hour. All right. Yeah.
I've had one guy, oh my God, 2 freaking hours later, we finally had to say, okay, enough's enough.
Gotta call it quits.
I gotta call it quits. I mean, it was an amazing thing, but he was a talker, and he just wanted to make sure his story got told. And so yeah.
Never start a question, and sometimes Tony does this and kind of regrets it a little bit. Okay, guys, well, start from the beginning, and they will. They'll be like, well, my earliest memory was
when I was a young wee lad.
Remember when we went to school with snow up to our ass and we walked 10 miles to school, and
of course
that was my dad's story. So yeah,
we wished to get kidnapped so we could have a ride halfway there. Then we'd have a car and a corpse because we'd kill the pedophile. It's like, dude, continue, go on.
Who the hell did you talk to?
It's old people glorified stories, you know. Then we were taught how to fish by our math teacher, who ran after my mother with a car one day. It's like, damn, that dementia's coming in tough, isn't it? You know?
Dorothy, I do have to bring up Unstoppable, of course, Overcomers. Has there been a story that you have taken so personally from one of your interviewees that really pump the brakes on the show a little bit and kind of hit close to home?
That's a good question.
It's all we do here. All we do.
Only good questions. Except the bad ones.
Well, we're gonna edit those out.
Yeah.
I would say there's a couple that have hit close to home, but I mean, I just ran with it. I don't
Adversity,
even remember.
overcoming. You've got all of this.
I've got all of that. I mean, cancer. I used to have the mentality that the show must go on. The night my dad died, I ran home. It was an hour drive. And I said to my mom, I'm like, if anything happens, call me and I'll come back. Number one, I need a break. And number two, the show has to go on. Right. And so thank God I had she wasn't a co-host, but like a roving reporter that she would come on and do the last 15 minutes of the show. And I said to her, you know what, can you just take over for tonight? Because I'll be here in the background, but I just don't know if I can do it.
And I tell Kevin to do that every day.
Well, I mean, Dorothy, I just got to touch on the show must go on theory. The person that said the show must go on was giving the actor or little, children actors drugs because they'd cry, and the parents would say, "I don't think my child can go on there. They seem to be in pain." But from the false teeth
He's
you put in
talking
their
about
mouth
the origin
and all of that, the origin of the show must go on.
There we go.
it was never it's not a happy story. So they would just drug up the kids and say, the show must go on. That's what we say here in showbiz. And the parents would say, I guess that sounds good. It's not a mentally good thing to do though for yourself. Right. It's terrible. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because after that, I just we'll put a repeat on if it has to. And I think, I don't know about you, but up until about 5 years ago, self-care was not even on my vocabulary or in my vocabulary. As somebody historically would take care of everybody else, put everybody first, not take care of Dorothy at all. Until my dad
Dorothy
got
needs
cancer.
to take care of Dorothy.
Right. And so that's why, I decided instead of 3 shows to go down to 1. And, if the guest cancels at the last minute and, I can't get a replacement and I'm not prepared, I'm not going to put a half-ass show out. So I'll put a replay up or,
100%. And I think mentally, not even necessarily even just for me, but I'm the original member and organizer of the show. So when I first started out, it was more of a way to clear my mind and clear my chest of things that are happening out in the world. And I feel like everybody needs a platform, and having that platform is so mentally cleansing. And regardless if you have catcallers and people who are saying, "Hey, you can't do this," you most certainly can. Everybody has a platform. And regardless if you're starting a new podcast, if you have an old podcast, excuse me, there is no reason not to speak your mind. And I feel like that's very, very cleansing for the soul, the mind, the body, and the soul all together.
Tony, actually, the older episodes, I've gone through it before I was a part of the show, Dorothy. The older episodes, Tony had on a couple of his friends, and the one thing I noticed was that Tony, while making a point and while making banter, see, we kind of go well together because we give each other enough room to explore, to just chat around and play fuck around time with whatever subject we want. These guys that he was with before, not so much. Everyone was kind of in it for themselves. And I'm sure if you've worked with people that are really just, instead of being a part of the show, everyone wants to have a star power to it. Now, don't get me wrong. I've gone on some crazy rants here, and Tony's gone on some crazy rants. My favorite one being the Wendy's rant. We had a person on here that had just gotten out of prison and written a book after 10 years in prison. So Tony starts out the show about his struggles at the Wendy's drive-through because, holy shit, they dropped his straw and dropped his lid, and it's just something he had to get off.
Drop my lid on the floor.
Now we get into the into the nitty-gritty of it, and dude's going on about all the stuff that he had to go through in prison. I said, hold on there, Tony, didn't you have a tough day at Wendy's too? Just as a callback sort of situation.
Look, everybody has their struggles, and that's the fact of it. Some people have minor struggles, such as myself. Some people have major struggles, such as other people.
Yeah. And Dorothy, when you hear about, when you're going one-on-one in an interview with a veteran who's been through the worst of it, or one that hasn't really been through the worst of it, you don't really want to, mention somebody who has been through worse, like, well, at least you didn't lose your fucking arms or anything like that, right? Where, because in their heads, they have gone through such a bad time that
the worst tragedies, the worst turmoil.
Yeah, everyone else's situation really doesn't matter. And I can't blame anyone for ever feeling that way, because you're supposed to be allowed to feel that way, because it's your life, and everyone else who is sometimes trying to help hurts worse in those situations where they say, oh, you should just go to group therapy. And in group therapy, sometimes it'll help, but sometimes it'll bring out the you go to one bad session, you say to yourself, wow, they're in bad shape. I'm not. And that might be half true and half not true, but it's just you're opening up. What you're doing right now is you're opening up a whole platform one-on-one, where not only are they acknowledged, but they know that a message is out there. And if other veterans are also watching along with them, they're not forced to go into a group therapy. They get to listen at their own leisure. There's no commercial interruption at all. And if they want to turn it off, they could turn it off. But if they want to continue to listen, and they could say, oh, okay, they might not feel so alone, where they just say, okay, at least it's happening to somebody else. There's some kind of community along with the whole situation. And I commend you for that all around.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny that you said that. So a couple of different things. I started it because I wanted to give people, number one, hope, and number two, make sure that they weren't alone in their circumstances. When you're going through the deep, dark holes of hell or depression, you feel completely isolated and alone. And so that's originally why I started the show, to give people that platform. And I've had back in the early days of the Journey in Boots, we were interviewing a couple of firefighters that were actually at Ground Zero. Now, as somebody who has actually been to Ground Zero, when I got there, was it last year or the year before? No, the year before. There is something, if you've never been, it's a place that you have to go. I don't know if it was because I have interviewed the men and women that have been there, but I felt the people's presence that died there during those weeks, and it was just, I can't describe it. It's just, you have to go and experience it if you've never been. And so interviewing those men and women that have actually been there, that were digging their buddies out of the rubble, and just I'm getting goosebumps now as I think about it. And just hearing their story of what had transpired during that week, month, however long that they were there, digging people out. I can't even imagine. And it's funny because as I'm sitting here and I'm visualizing everything, I can smell the smoke, and smell bodies that were in that. And I would never have had that if I hadn't been there and experienced it or interviewed these men and women that had been here. So
yeah, it's something that at the moment they can't be in touch with their emotions about it. You have to detach yourself from the whole situation. When in the thick of depression as well, I think it's important to allow people to go through that, alone for moments at a time, because you have to figure some stuff out for yourself. If you're not, I've been through it. I've been alcohol free for about 6.5 years now, and it's not a prize, It's just it's got a lot to do with you're a different person when you're on alcohol. You're a different person. You've got different versions of yourself, and it's all a control thing to a degree. But depression does happen, and there's something to be said to allow people to just be depressed, because the experience that they need to have through life with themselves mentally also involves the bad. It all can't be a pile of roses. We have to somehow get pushed through the worst of the worst. Now, to be digging friends out of the rubble and the bone and all that terrible shit with 9/11, it's one of the worst experiences. So for them to look at it nothing more as just a job, and then to realize they have the rest of their day to kind of process it, but then push it off to the side, because that doesn't take a day. You won't sleep. You need to sleep, and then the next day you get up and you do your thing. But even then, you don't want to really get into it too much. These men and women, they have to look at it nothing more as a job at the beginning and the end of the day. But that goes against all human nature. You can't just look at something like going in to an area and then being paid in paper funny notes just so that way we can strive for indoor living and food again. There's a deeper connection that we all have to each other than just the bare necessities, and then maybe you get a fucking December to remember from Lexus. By the way, Lexus, not a sponsor, could be a sponsor though.
Good.
Definitely not Dodge. Anyways, it's just and that's just my opinion. Like some other people are gonna say, Kevin's not a doctor, how dare you? And then another person would say, what you do with the vaccine is you throw it into a dog's bowl and you watch the dog won't eat the vaccine. It's my best RFK right there.
That's pretty good, by the way.
Also not a doctor, but that's fine. That's all good. Tony, if you have anything to add to that idea.
I do not. We are going to wrap up this show, however. We are kind of at the end of our time. Dorothy, if people are going to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Well, definitely go to my social media, Dorothy Graham O'Dell, on LinkedIn or Facebook. It's the same thing. Or our website, unstoppableovercomers.com. And go check out our show. Go to our YouTube channel on the Unstoppable Network. Subscribe, share with all your friends. And Kevin, there's one thing I wanted to mention. A lot of the veterans that come onto my show, have done some healing. Whether that be they went to Centre Modus, which is Dr. Janelle Royster. She is a therapist. So whether they did go through her protocols or got counseling with some of the other places that I have networked with, most of them have gotten some kind of counseling. So I'm not ever going to put somebody on the show that I know for sure is about ready to pull the trigger. That was already
there's unfortunately a lot of people who want to look for a platform as their staging area for that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and I usually vet people that come onto my show. Because I did have one guy that, I want to share my story. I've attempted suicide 11 times. When was your last suicide attempt? Last week. Okay, tell you what, let me get you connected with either one of my counseling friends or a mentor or somebody. Let's get you the help you need.
Yeah, at that point, he's just running up the scoreboard, and then, somebody else is going to be like, I bet you I can go for 12, like it's holding your breath or something,
So I just wanted to put that plug out there. I just, and generally when I have a veteran on, Dr. Royster is there. So if we feel that person is being triggered, number one, we're going to slow it down. And if we have to, we'll go off air and she can help them with that. But that has not happened. So
that's a good thing. I would feel free to share every episode to the Podguyz Podcast group page, even the other page as well, where we're trying to build it up. But, Facebook algorithms keep it down a little because Facebook's like, we already have one. It's like, God damn it, Facebook, it's another one. We took the one group private and Facebook would not allow it to be public again, which is whatever. So we got another public group out there, which Facebook just says, it's another. Yeah. So share it to as many pages as you like on our platform. We do get a lot of traction, and it's that old theory, 1 in 500. 1 in 500. You pop it out to 500. If you get one, that's good. 1,000, 2, and so on and so forth. The old marketing of hey, if you got one person to watch, that's kind of like 10. No, it's not. That's actually less than 1. You don't even know if they just did it intentionally or non-intentionally or whatever. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Thank you, of course. Guys, tune in every Monday, of course. We have a different guest. Thousands of guests so far, over our years of interviewing. And of course, we'd like to hear and share your stories. Guys, we're the Podguyz Podcast. Sparky, where can you happen to find us if you were looking for us to do our thing?
Well, you can find us on every single major streaming platform, including YouTube, Google, iHeart, Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Facebook Live on the video.
Yeah.
You could also click on our page, find our nifty merchandise.
Look at that shirt. Look at that beautiful shirt right there. Sparky, hold it up proud right there. You got the big Podguyz microphone right there. The Podguyz Podcast. And Tony's got some kind of Labyrinth shirt going on there with David Bowie, which wasn't even the best Labyrinth movie. I would suggest that Dustin, it wasn't. It was not the
wrong with you.
Blasphemous,
Kevin, blasphemous.
Dustin Hoffman had a great movie about a Labyrinth as well. Very well acted by an unknown Italian actor at the time. Couldn't even tell you his name, but it was so well acted. But Sparky, you weren't told too much about one, but we are soon to be on Roku. We will be on the Roku channel, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Up in the game as far as production, and all the old episodes will be on there, including this one with Dorothy O'Dell, Graham O'Dell, all the last names are thrown in there.
Dorothy Graham O'Dell.
Yeah.
I threw my maiden name in there,
Of course.
Yeah, why not? Just for the identity thieves, we have to do something for them.
Guys, we're the Podguyz Podcast. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. 10:15 Eastern Standard Time via Facebook. Bye.